Welcome, welcome, welcome. This is part two of six parters of looking at Magic the Gathering through Nietzschean ideas. Part one was already uploaded last time, so you guys can go check that out if you want to look at Magic the Gathering through the Apollonian thinking and Dionysian thinking by Nietzsche. That's an interesting video, I guess, so you guys can go check it out. For today, we will go through part two and part three. Let's start with part two first. Slave morality, master morality, and Magic the Gathering. But before I start, I am Moshi Moshi Dani. I make short video Magic the Gathering card lore. I upload those videos in the short section of my channel. Go check them out. I'm proud of these videos. Do consider subscribing. It helps me a lot by inspiring me to make more content like this. Maybe lore video, Magic the Gathering, or maybe weird ass thinking videos like this one here. But yeah, your subscription actually inspires me to make more videos like this. Actually, this video was hidden for a very, very long time. I already had like this idea written down for a very, very, very long time. But looking at my subscription, like it's increasing. Like I think 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, I only had like 300 subscribers, and now I'm around 800. I'm like, oh, maybe it's time to release this weird ass idea videos I have about Magic the Gathering. All right, so that's too much introduction. Let's quickly start with this lesson. The lesson for today, part two and part three. First, let's start with slave morality and master morality and Magic the Gathering. All right, class. Another important Nietzschean idea is the slave morality and master morality. So let's divide our screen. One side for slave morality, the other side for master morality. So what is slave morality? Slave morality is a value system created by weak or oppressed people who cannot express power directly. Instead of admiring strength, these weak people come to resent it. For master morality, it is a value system created by the strong, confident, and self assertive individuals. In this morality, people judge actions based on their own strength and excellence, not on external rules. Power here on this side. For MTG fans, for the slave morality, this is the best card I can think of. And then for master morality, this card here. Now, why this card for slave morality? Bro, just look at the name of the card. Blind obedience. Bro, blind obedience is like 100% slave morality. Of course, I'm talking about this guy kneeling down here, but like the card itself, and then the ability, and then this one here implies slave morality for this character here. Now, Edgar Markov for master morality. A quick lore on Edgar Markov. There was a choice he had to make: either suffer the death of him and his people through hunger, or assert himself and find a way to solve this problem for him and his people to survive, even if it means doing some very nasty things. I made a short video explaining the lore of Edgar Markov. I'm gonna link that lore in my in the description below. But basically, he did assert what he wanted, and because of this, they survive. But of course, they had to pay the price. The price is them becoming vampires. So that's Edgar Markov. I believe is under master morality. Now, for slave morality, good here means being humble, being obedient, patient, kind, and self-sacrificing. Evil or being bad here simply means strength, dominance, pride, and independence. Now, there is resentment towards the strong for slave morality. And weakness, they make it into a virtue. And if you're gonna ask me quickly to give a card example for slave morality, the fastest card I can think of is this one here. I also made a lore video for this. Go check them out. Link in the description below. Blood Bet. For those who don't know, Blood Bet are created to be slaves or to be resources, to become resources for the masters. They cannot do anything about their fate. They have no say about their fate. Right? So Blood Bet are under slave morality. Oh yeah, here we go. So you guys can look for this in the shorts section video. I'm pretty sure you will like it. I'm proud of this video. Basically, in the thrall hierarchy, Weaker thralls are like under slave morality, as long as they're like under a stronger thrall or any other creature. Though not necessarily kind creatures, most thrall creatures are exploited and dominated by masters. So these exploited thrall creatures are like under slave morality. Now, you don't need to have a master sacrificing a character before that character can become a slave morality. If you have this kind of characteristic, you're also under slave morality, even if your sacrifice means making the other creatures stronger. This self sacrifice is still under slave morality. And there are a lot of creatures like this in MTG, having this self sacrifice thing. So they are under slave morality. But like, bro, just read his ability. This is very, very slave morality ish characteristic. And people might hate me for doing this, but in my humble opinion, and I really, really hate to do this. I like Odric. I also made a lore video about this guy. But there was a time when he was under slave morality. So what was this? What were these times? This three phases here. He was under slave morality when he was strictly adhering to church ideals, like he was blinded by his belief about the church, his 100% devotion for the church. Basically, the church dictating what he thinks or what he feels or what he says. The second time when he experienced slave morality, I think, is during his breaking down phase, when he finally had doubts about his faith, about the church he served. So basically, he was under slave morality in his time when he was blinded by his faith and then by his duty. Go watch this video below here in the short section of my channel. I promise you, these are two good videos. Alright, so of course, wait, before before I stop here. We still have not finished the story of Odric. Odric now is a vampire. Now we will want to see Odric do something strong, do something great, following his own ideals and values. Now that will make him under master morality. Yo, Odric fans, don't hate me, don't hate me. Now, if you guys want something meta, here is a fun meta look on how playing the game, knowing the lore, forces your opponent to be under slave morality. You can force your opponent to be under slave morality. The card is Authority of Consuls. Read its abilities and you'll understand that, wow, you have the power to make your opponent under slave morality. Basically, with this card, you are forcing your opponent and your opponent's creature to be subservient and follow what you want them to do. You are forcing the opponent to be under slave morality unless they solve the problem. But in my experience, it's quite hard to solve problems like this if you don't have enough counters in your deck, in your library. Usually, you will have to play maybe 4-5 turns before you can solve this problem here. But during these turns, when this card is played, the opponent cannot do anything but bow down to the authority of the consuls. Basically, be under slave morality. Bruh. Alright, now, for Nietzsche, he criticized slave morality because it discourages excellence, creativity, and self-assertion. And this kind of thinking, slave morality, it promotes guilt and conformity instead of personal growth. So these cards here I'm showing you right now are examples of cards that follow slave morality. The name of the card, the art of the card, the meaning or the lore within the card. So for Nietzsche, these cards are not cool. Even selfless savior. I know you guys love selfless savior, but yeah, sadly, this card is under slave morality. Now, don't be confused. I'm talking about the card itself. The card is designed to be under slave morality, so it benefits other creatures or it benefits the owner of the card. But the card itself is not a master morality card. Okay, so what about master morality? In master morality, good here means noble, powerful, courageous, independent, and life-affirming. Evil here does not mean immoral. It simply means weak, inferior, or lacking strength. Master morality does not feel guilt for being powerful and does not seek equality or approval from others. Yes, I know he is a bad guy, but yes, he is one of the best examples for master morality. If we really want to see an example of pure master morality, Yawgmoth is our guy. Talk about total domination, total imposition of will, total destruction and reconstruction of life and body, and the ultimate I don't fucking care about what you think and feel kind of guy. This guy, Yawgmoth. Now, if Yawgmoth is master morality, maybe those who are familiar with the lore already knows who the next card is. Yeah, you're right. Urza can also be considered master morality, especially during the heights of his power. He's also that kind of guy. Like, I don't care what's gonna happen as long as I can fulfill my mission, as long as I can do my job properly. And of course, my love, Liliana. Same idea. During the height of her power, she is also considered under master morality. I'll explain more about Liliana later. We will use her as an example to understand more about slave and master morality. But yeah, for now, however, in my humble subjective opinion, I think focusing specifically only on one side, slave morality or master morality only, will not tell the whole story of a card, a character, or even the player. So what I'm trying to say here is if we will only focus on the card itself and its powers, or we will only focus on the fact that Liliana is under master morality, then there is like less appreciation for who Liliana is. That if we really want to know and appreciate the character or the person playing this card, we have to understand who they were before. Like, we have to ask questions like, who was she? Or what was she before? Maybe in game, it's fine to focus on either the slave morality and master morality only, or maybe focus on the card purely only because cards are designed for their utility. They are resources we can use during our games. And the meaning within the card, the story of the cards, they become more impactful if we understood how they got to slave morality and master morality. If this is a thing for you. Like both of them are okay. You can just see the card as it is. It's just a card, a tool you guys can use during your games. But if you want to have more impact, if you want to feel more impact using the card, or if you want to have more appreciation for your card and the character depicted in the card, maybe it's also good to know the story of the card. Now, let's use Liliana as our example. And we will use this chart to understand slave morality and master morality through Liliana's story. Some of you are already familiar with this chart here. This is called the hero's journey chart, but I'm not going to call it that. I'm going to call it a character development journey chart. All right. On the right side is young Liliana, not yet a planeswalker. On the left side is Liliana as a planeswalker. Now, on the right side, this is Liliana, a young Liliana born into a family of healers. She learned magic. She tried saving her brother, but she failed. Her brother became a zombie, and she got traumatized by this. And because of this trauma, her spark was awakened, making her into a planeswalker. Now, during her planeswalker time, she did become powerful. She met a lot of other characters. She had a lot of adventures, we can say that. And she made a lot of mistakes. Still had mistakes. Mistakes like what? She sold her soul. Now, demons are holding a contract for her soul. And of course, she became part of that Innistrad story where she had to help the people of Innistrad fight off Emrakul. Then later on, she had to go back and try to reconcile with her past. So this is Liliana if we will follow this chart here. When she was young, there was a teacher. Some teachers are not good. And then she had to cross this threshold. And this threshold is this, trying to save the brother. And this ended up actually to become a failure. And from that failure, she had a new skill, becoming a planeswalker. So she experienced death as the old Liliana and then rebirth as Liliana the Planeswalker. And then she experienced a lot of changes again, these new challenges and so on and so forth. And then she went through, I guess you can say, atonement by helping the people of Innistrad fight off Emrakul. And then she returned to her home. And then for now, that's it. That's the story that we have about Liliana. And I guess you guys can already identify which side is slave morality. Of course, slave morality is on the side when she was still a weak character, not really that strong. Though there are points here, there are points in her life story on this side that showed master morality, but it's not really a lot. It's mostly slave morality. And on the left side, it's obviously mostly master morality. And though this side showed phases, small phases of slave morality, generally speaking, this side still shows master morality. Right now, this is the story where we left off Liliana. She's a professor. So for me, in my humble opinion, slave and master morality are not opposites, but are phases that characters go through, just like what happened to Liliana here. Now, both sides have strength and weaknesses. For the slave morality strength side, I can point to this scene here where Liliana had the compassion of wanting to save the brother. But then again, this was a mistake. For the master morality side, of course, power here is strength. Liliana, if she was very weak, would have not helped during the Emrakul invasion, right? Right now, this is where we know Liliana is as a professor. This cycle will happen again. And hopefully, the writers of Liliana's story will follow this cycle, will give Liliana new challenges and issues and problems to solve, making her, I guess you can say, much better than who she is right now. And us, as story consumers, this is what we want, right? Growth, change, and development. We don't like flat characters. We don't like flat stories. This is what we want. Now, this idea, in my humble opinion, can also be applied to us. We don't want to have like a one sided flat life. We can go through this, overcome this, and then get this. But later, going back to the idea of eternal recurrence, this might happen again. There's a probability that this will come again. New problems will come again. And all we have to do is like affirm life, go through it, and then have this morality again, and so on and so forth. I hope you guys are still here with me. Now we can appreciate more the master morality Liliana because now we understand her story. That as a young woman, she had committed a lot of mistakes, acts that should have ruined her as a character. But Liliana chose to persist. Though there are more tragedies that came later on during her life, it did not stop her from completing her character development. Because of this, she gained much, much more. As a character. or or maybe I'm just overreaching here because I really, really like Liliana as a character and her lore. But in all seriousness, I think many MTG characters go through the same phase. I just wanted to use Liliana as our example here. Yeah, so some characters and stories might start out as slave morality and ends up with master morality, or some characters might start out as master morality and ends up with slave morality. And then the cycle will just repeat itself. As long as the character persists, the cycle will repeat itself. All right. Yeah. Yeah, I really like Liliana, by the way. All right, so part 2 done. If you guys have any question about slave morality and master morality applied to MTG characters, do write them in the comment section. I'll try my best to give you a reasonable, if not sarcastic, reply. Okay, now part 2 lesson is done. We move to part 3. Eternal recurrence simply is the idea that your life will repeat itself endlessly, exactly the same, again and again, for all eternity. Basically, in bro talk, it simply means this. Today we win a game in our pod. Today, we lose a game. Today, people treat me like poop. Today, wow, I lost my keys. Today, work was fine. Today, people still treat me like poop. And then repeat. So imagine yourself waking up to this every single day. Exactly Groundhog Day. All right, so that's the idea for eternal recurrence. And then Nietzsche poses a question. Will you be able to live your life if you know this will happen again and again and again? All right, let's try to apply eternal recurrence on us, players, MTG fans. So, eternal recurrence says that every action, every choice, every joy and suffering would return in the same order forever. Now, Nietzsche did not present this mainly as a scientific theory, but as a test of how one lives. Whether you'll be able to love your fate knowing the same things will just recur. To simplify the idea, will you want to play this game if the results will just keep repeating itself again and again and again? Maybe you guys can say, yeah, I can keep playing MTG games. But like, are you sure? Because last time I checked, you wanted the blue player out the pod. Simply, you didn't want to play the game anymore when you realized the other players kept playing blue, kept playing counter spells, that you wanted the guy out, right? But you can't because you're just trying to be respectful. So you want the pod to stay as it is, so you don't really want to say anything. But deep inside you, you really hated that blue player. So yeah, that's the exercise here. Like, can you really play the game again and again, knowing that other players are being like this to you? Or, here's a much more better example, a much simplified example. So, will you still be here? Will you still be supporting the product if the makers of the product keep messing up what you love about this game? Will you still be here if, let's say, the card game you love decided to ruin your experience as a casual, a veteran, or as a pro player? Think about that. What if one day Wizards decided to reprint a lot of these very rare cards? Will you still be here? Let's say Wizards made changes in the rules that ruins your game style, that ruins old rules that made the game balanced. Will you guys still be here supporting the product? So that's the question posed here for eternal recurrence. Now let's apply eternal recurrence on MTG characters. So there's two sides here. Eternal recurrence wherein the characters affirm life, accept life, and move on. And then the other side is the characters that cannot take the shame, cannot take the suffering, so they give up. Let's look first for those characters that affirmed life. If you can affirm it joyfully, the eternal recurrence, the suffering that comes with it, it means you fully embrace life, responsibility, and existence as it is. Best example I can think of here would be Urza. For those who don't know, Urza as a character is filled with regret over the death of his brother. Of course, Urza is also filled with regret over the loss of his allies, and sometimes he was shown to dislike his faith. But Urza still chose to fight, to live another day and fight. So Urza is a good example of a character that affirmed life, even though he went through a lot of suffering, and even though he knows suffering will still come later on in his life. Another example here would be Karn, the Silver Golem. Like, bro, Karn caused the creation of New Phyrexia. Karn was shown to have regrets about this event. But still, Karn decided to live to fight another day. So, a good example of that character that affirmed life, even though he knew suffering will come later on. And this card here, one of my favorites in MTG Arena, Aurelia, the War Leader. For her, she's filled with regret about the loss of the lives during her command. A lot of people died under her command, but still, she chose to continue, even if it means her faking strength so that people will not lose hope. Aurelia did that. So a good example, another good example of character that affirms life, even though suffering will come later on. Now, on the other side of the coin are the characters that simply gave up because of shame. Gideon is one of those characters here. Now, wait, before you guys at me, I understand Gideon sacrificed himself for Liliana, so Liliana will become powerful to do her job. But the way I understood the story is he couldn't take the shame of the mistakes he made. He is always haunted by the death of his original team. And because of this shame, he made I guess you can say peaceful decision to give up his life, his powers, and just be gone for good. All right, so that's an example for this. Another example of a character that was not really satisfied with what happened to him and obviously will not be satisfied of the suffering that will come is Jace. Now, I know a lot of you guys are Jace fans here, but hear me out, hear me out. If you read about Jace, he is already known to isolate himself because of shame, pain, and failure. But sure, he still continued, he still persisted. Sure, he still did that. However, after the new invasion, after his corrupted body was destroyed, didn't he choose to seal himself in a stasis, not wanting to be with others anymore because of the failure that he experienced? The way I understood the story is this is an example of a character that gave up on everything, on life, on his comrades. He chose to isolate himself away from all of them because he couldn't take the regret anymore. So I think it's safe to put Jace in this category. And then last but not the least, maybe some of you guys don't know this card, Ixidor. For him, I guess he's the guy who gave up, who chose to be crazy when he... No, wait. He is the guy who chose to live in his own mind, dream. Basically, he went nuts, giving up on life. That's it. Why? What happened to him? Well, he experienced the death of his lover. He isolated himself from others, and then he went mad from the sadness and failures. And because of this, he created a dream world wherein he is separated from reality. Basically, he gave up on reality. So that's another example for this side of eternal recurrence where characters do not want to affirm life anymore. Alright, so part 3 is done, eternal recurrence. So that's the lesson for today. If you guys have any questions about part 3, do write them in the comment section below. I will try my best to give you guys an answer if I know the answers to it. For now, I will end here. I will upload episodes, lectures, part 4, 5, and 6 sometime this week as soon as I finish the voiceover. For now, if you guys enjoyed this presentation here, may I ask you guys to click subscribe button, please. I make Magic the Gathering short lore videos and I put them in the short section of my channel. Go watch them. They're quite interesting to watch. And thank you for listening. For now, my young mages and young wizards and young planeswalkers, class is over. You guys are dismissed. See you in next session.